Amara had always believed that her relationship with her twin sister Lara was unbreakable. In a world that seemed to fracture relationships faster than you could blink, the bond between them had withstood the test of time. They were twins, but they might as well have been two halves of the same whole. From childhood to adulthood, Amara and Lara had been inseparable, their differences complementing each other in ways that only twins could understand. Lara was the loud one, the centre of attention, the extrovert who lit up every room. People loved her infectious laughter, her vibrant personality, and the way she commanded a room. She was the one who could walk into a party, and without effort, make everyone feel like they were her best friend. She had an energy that was intoxicating, and Amara admired her for it. She looked up to her sister, always a little in awe of how effortlessly Lara moved through the world. Amara, on the other hand, was quieter, more reserved. She didn't mind being in the background. While Lara lived for the spotlight, Amara was content to stay out of it, finding peace in solitude and introspection. She loved to read, to dream, and to quietly observe. People often described her as sweet and gentle, but those who really knew her would call her thoughtful, deep, and passionate about the things that truly mattered to her. Despite their differences, they shared everything: clothes, inside jokes, even their dreams. They had each other's backs through everything, through school, heartbreak, and family challenges. Their bond was strong, perhaps stronger than anything else in their lives. That was, of course, until Daniel. Amara had met Daniel at a mutual friend's birthday party. He wasn't the loudest or most attention-grabbing person in the room, but there was something about him that stood out. He wasn't flashy like some of the other men she had encountered in the past, but rather, he exuded a quiet confidence that was captivating. Daniel was the kind of person who didn't need to announce his success to the world. He had the wealth, the looks, and the intellect, but it was his authenticity that truly drew Amara in. He made her feel seen in a way no one else had ever done before. There was something real about him, a stark contrast to the superficial relationships Amara had experienced before. He wasn't just interested in her for her appearance or because of her status. He genuinely wanted to know her, what she liked, what she dreamed of, what made her tick. He listened with intensity, as if he valued every word she said. It didn't take long for Amara to fall for him, but it wasn't just the charm and looks that got to her. It was his heart, his ability to make her feel like the most important person in the room. Every moment they spent together seemed like magic, even if they were doing something as simple as walking through the park or having dinner at their favourite restaurant. Their connection felt effortless, like two puzzle pieces coming together. For the first time in her life, Amara felt like she had found someone who truly understood her. It wasn't long before they started dating, and the more time they spent together, the more Amara was sure that this was it, the man she had been waiting for. Daniel was perfect, not just in his achievements, but in his simplicity and his kindness. He made her feel comfortable in her own skin. He was everything Amara wanted, everything she needed. As they grew closer, Lara, of course, was excited for her sister. She had always been supportive of Amara's relationships, always encouraging her to go after what she wanted. Lara loved seeing her sister happy, or so Amara thought. At first, everything seemed normal. Lara smiled brightly when Amara talked about Daniel. She would listen with interest, ask questions about him, and tell Amara how happy she was that she had found someone like him. "He sounds perfect for you," Lara would say with enthusiasm, and Amara would beam with pride. There was nothing unusual about that, right? But as time went on, Amara began to notice things. Small things, subtle shifts in Lara's behaviour whenever Daniel was around. At first, Amara brushed it off. Lara was always a little too friendly with people, a little too flirtatious. It was just her nature. She had always been the one to talk to everyone, to engage with the crowd. But this time, something felt different. Lara would laugh a little too much at Daniel's jokes. She would brush against him, touch his arm in a way that felt more intimate than necessary. And when Amara wasn't looking, she would glance at him, lingering just a second longer than she should. It was nothing overt, nothing that could be definitively called flirting, but it made Amara's stomach twist in knots. Still, she told herself that she was just being paranoid. After all, Lara was her sister. They had been through so much together, and she trusted her. Surely she had nothing to worry about. But when it happened, Amara wasn't ready. It wasn't just a subtle shift in attention. It was a full-on betrayal, and it came when Amara least expected it. She had walked into the living room one evening to find Lara sitting on the couch with Daniel, their faces far too close. Daniel's hand was resting on Lara's knee, and there was something about the way they were looking at each other that made Amara's heart sink. For a split second, everything stopped. Amara froze in the doorway, her stomach dropping, her heart pounding in her chest. She tried to shake off the feeling, but it didn't go away. Her mind screamed at her that it wasn't anything, just a simple gesture, nothing more. But deep down, Amara knew better. Lara looked up first, seeing her standing there. She quickly pulled her hand away from Daniel's, a flush creeping onto her face. "Amara," she said, standing up quickly. "Hey, you're home early." Daniel, still seated, looked up at her, a sheepish look in his eyes. He opened his mouth to say something, but Amara could see the guilt in his expression before the words even left his lips. Amara's heart was racing, her mind spinning. "Lara," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What is going on?" Lara's expression dropped. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Instead, she just looked at Amara, her eyes filled with guilt, but also with something else that Amara couldn't place. "I need to talk to you, both of you," Amara said, her voice breaking. "Lara, what is this? What's going on between you two?" Lara hesitated, her eyes darting away from Amara's. She looked at Daniel, who was avoiding Amara's gaze entirely. "I'm sorry," Lara said quietly. "I never meant this to happen, but I've fallen for him, Amara." The words hit Amara like a slap in the face. Her heart stopped beating for a moment. "You what?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I didn't mean to hurt you," Lara said, her voice cracking. "But it's too late. It just happened. I didn't plan it. But I love him, Amara, and I think he feels the same." Amara felt as though the floor had been ripped out from under her. The room spun, her stomach churned, and her mind couldn't quite process what she was hearing. Lara, her own twin sister, had fallen in love with the man Amara had given her heart to. She had betrayed her, and worse, she was confessing it to her face. "Why?" Amara whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "Why him? Why Daniel?" Lara looked down at her hands, unable to answer. "Get out," Amara finally said, her voice cold. "I don't want to see either of you again." She walked out of the room, not looking back. She couldn't bear to see their faces, couldn't stand to hear their apologies. She just needed to get away from them. She ran into the night, unsure of where she was going, just knowing that she had to leave. The betrayal was too much. She needed space, time to process the pain. She didn't know what to do or how to fix the broken pieces of her heart. But one thing was certain. Lara had crossed a line that could never be undone. And Daniel, she would never be able to trust him again. The betrayal and the path to healing Amara had walked out into the night, her heart shattering with every step. Lara, her twin sister, her best friend, had betrayed her in the worst way imaginable. She had taken the man Amara loved, the man she had given her heart to. And for what? It didn't even make sense. How could her own sister, the person she trusted the most in this world, steal the one thing that had brought her joy? The pain was unbearable. She stumbled through the streets, not knowing where she was going. The tears blurred her vision, the grief clawing at her chest. How could Lara do this to her? Amara had always been there for Lara. She had supported her, loved her unconditionally, and yet Lara had turned her back on her. Every time she thought about it, the rage built up inside her. How dare they? How dare Daniel, the man she trusted, the man who had promised her everything, fall for Lara? How dare Lara, her twin sister, her confidant, take him from her? It was the ultimate betrayal, and the pain of it all felt like a constant ache in her heart. She kept walking, not knowing where her feet were taking her. Her thoughts were a whirlwind, and each step felt heavier than the last. She couldn't go home. Not yet. Not when every corner of that place reminded her of what had been stolen from her. She walked aimlessly through the streets of their neighborhood, her mind screaming for some kind of answer that wouldn't come. She eventually found herself at the edge of a park, sitting on a bench, her head in her hands. The tears came then, in an overwhelming rush. She let herself cry, the tears falling freely, the weight of it all pressing her down. How had she been so blind? How had she not seen the way Lara had looked at Daniel? How had she trusted Daniel with her heart, only to have him turn to the one person she thought she could trust above all others. As the tears subsided, Amara wiped her eyes and looked up at the sky. The stars were faint, barely visible against the light pollution of the city. The emptiness of the night seemed to mirror the emptiness she felt inside. She had loved Daniel. She had loved him with every part of herself. And yet, here she was, alone, betrayed by the two people she had loved and trusted most. The days that followed felt like a blur. Amara didn't go to work. She stayed in her apartment, avoiding phone calls, shutting herself off from everyone. She couldn't bear to face anyone, let alone Lara. How could she face her twin sister? The person who had always been there for her. The person she had shared everything with. It wasn't just the betrayal that hurt. It was the loss of trust. It was the idea that someone she had once called her best friend could take something so precious from her. The pain of it all was unbearable. The ache in her chest wouldn't subside, no matter how hard she tried to push it away. The loneliness crept in, and she found herself questioning her worth. If Daniel could so easily fall for Lara, what did that say about her? Was she not enough? Was she not beautiful enough? Not worthy enough? Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Daniel and Lara together. She saw the way they looked at each other. The chemistry between them was undeniable, and it hurt more than she could have ever imagined. She had believed in their love, had believed that he was different, but now everything felt like a lie. It wasn't just her relationship with Daniel that had been shattered. It was the foundation of her life. She had always believed that love was something that could be trusted, that loyalty was something that couldn't be broken. But now, those beliefs were nothing but shattered illusions. Amara had no idea what to do. The days dragged on, and the pain of betrayal gnawed at her, a constant reminder that her world had been upended. But in the quiet moments of darkness, something began to stir within her, a small, flickering light of determination. A thought began to form in the depths of her mind. She would not let this destroy her. She would not let Lara and Daniel take everything from her. It took time, but slowly, Amara started to heal. She didn't know when or how it happened, but the pain began to ebb away, little by little. It was as if, in the process of facing the heartbreak, she began to see a way out of the darkness. She knew she had to take control of her own life. She had to reclaim her strength. The first step was simple. She took a day for herself. She went to the gym, something she hadn't done in weeks. She worked out until her muscles ached, the physical exertion forcing her to focus on something other than the pain in her heart. The sweat that dripped from her brow was a sign that she was reclaiming her power. She wasn't going to let Daniel or Lara define her. After her workout, she took herself to her favourite cafe, a small, cosy place on the corner of the street. It was the kind of place where people came to escape the noise of the city, to relax and unwind. She sat by the window, sipping on a latte, staring out at the world as it went on around her. She thought about how much had changed in such a short time. Her phone buzzed on the table, and for a moment Amara froze. She saw Lara's name on the screen. She stared at it for several seconds, her thumb hovering over the ignore button. She could feel her heart racing, the decision weighing heavily on her. After everything, did she really want to talk to Lara? Could she forgive her for what she had done? The answer came quickly. No, she couldn't. Not yet. She wasn't ready to face her twin sister, not after everything. But she also knew that if she wanted to move forward, she couldn't stay locked in the past. She had to face the truth and find a way to heal. She put the phone back in her bag and took another sip of her coffee. As she looked out the window, she realized something important. The pain wasn't going to go away overnight. The scars from the betrayal would take time to heal, but they would heal, and when they did, she would be stronger than she ever was before. The next few weeks were a blur of healing and rediscovery. Amara went back to work, focusing on her career and making new goals for herself. She started to take up hobbies she had neglected, painting, reading, even learning new skills. She filled her days with things that made her feel alive again. But it wasn't just the distraction that helped her heal. It was the decision she made to forgive herself, to stop blaming herself for the betrayal, to stop thinking that there was something wrong with her. Daniel's love for Lara had nothing to do with her. It wasn't about her worth. It was about his inability to be loyal. And Lara's betrayal wasn't Amara's fault either. She had tried to be the best sister she could be. Slowly, Amara began to believe that she was worthy of happiness, worthy of love, and worthy of respect. The first step toward healing was to forgive herself, and the second was to move on from the hurt. It wasn't easy. It took time, but eventually Amara found herself standing on the other side of the pain, and when she did, she realized something important. She had been so focused on Daniel and Lara that she had forgotten the most important person in her life, herself. One evening, while out with a friend, Amara bumped into someone new, someone who would change her life in ways she never imagined. She was walking out of a bookstore when she ran straight into a tall, handsome man who was holding a few books in his hands. Their eyes met, and she felt a spark of something she hadn't felt in a long time. "Sorry," the man said with a smile, his deep voice warm and friendly. "It's okay," Amara replied, her heart fluttering. There was something about him, something genuine that made her feel at ease. "Are you okay?" he asked, noticing the way she looked a bit flustered. "Yeah," she said, shaking off the nerves. "I'm fine." They exchanged a few more words before parting ways, but something about their brief interaction stayed with Amara. She couldn't help but smile to herself as she walked away. For the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, there was hope. Amara knew that her journey wasn't over. She had been hurt deeply, but the future was still hers to shape. And the man she met at the bookstore, he was just the beginning of what could be a new chapter in her life. The comeback and the last laugh.